Today is Thursday, January 2nd, 2025. My name is Hunter. Welcome back to Weather on the Go, all your weather coverage. A huge winter storm will be moving into the United States this weekend, dumping very heavy snow and a prolific ice storm with it as well, and also some severe weather. We're going to be going over everything that you need to know with this upcoming winter storm this weekend and the breakdown completely on this winter storm as we go throughout the video, followed by the Arctic air that is going to spill in on the back side of this system by the second week in January. If you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe to the channel down below and follow along with all my winter weather breakdowns here this winter, throughout the spring, the summer, and the fall. Like the video by giving it a thumbs up and share this video with friends, family, and on social media. I definitely appreciate it. Let's look here at our low temperatures waking up this morning, and it was a wintry morning across the north. Temperatures in the single digits, very close to zero, in fact, across northern North Dakota. Wind chill values approaching 15 degrees below zero up here as well. Just across the border in Canada, those wind chills into southern Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba were actually in the 20s and 30s below zero. So that's the brand of air that's going to be diving south over the next couple of days. And looking at the afternoon, it's not going to get much better up here in the upper Midwest. Temperatures in the single digits to the teens. And those wind chills, especially for North Dakota and northern northwestern Minnesota, hanging out in the low single digits there, but still below zero across those areas this afternoon. Let's look at the precipitation through the day. We do have some clipper systems moving through, one through Iowa, northwest Illinois, bringing some lighter snowfall. We also have some snow squalls and some lake effect snow over here toward Lake Erie. So we're going to be keeping a very close eye on that. And then a system moving in across the west as we go through today and into tonight. That's our piece of energy that we're keeping an eye on. That's going to be diving into the country as we go through the weekend and bringing us our major winter storm. But here and now, over the next 24 hours, we're going to be seeing some heavier mountain snow out there for Wyoming and northern Colorado. Maybe a foot or so in some of those areas out there in the higher elevations. A lighter clipper system moving through the Midwest there to the Ohio Valley from Iowa back here into Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio. That could bring us maybe an inch or inch and a half of snow potentially as we go through your Friday time frame. And then the lake effect snow over here as well. Some of those lake effect snow bands could be piling up to a foot or more of snow, especially for Erie, Pennsylvania, Orchard Park, New York, and Watertown, New York. That's where the more prolific lake effect snowfall bands will be over the next 24 hours. Let's look at the energy associated with our huge winter storm that's going to be moving into the country as we go in towards this weekend. Friday night, it's moving in here across portions of the West Coast, and that sensors, those weather balloons, are going to pick up the data, feed them into the computer models, and definitely give us a better idea of the track of the system, the moisture it has to work with, and those official snow and ice amounts. And looking here at that energy, pretty decent. You can see those orange showing up here in Utah on Saturday. A lot of dynamics with this system, and especially as we go into Sunday, really dynamic system across the middle of the country toward the Mississippi Valley. And then once we go into Monday, that system flattens out, but still a lot of energy still showing those darker greens and yellows showing up here in the mid-Atlantic. Definitely a system that is still substantial at this point. Let's look at those temperatures leading up to the system. We're going to have the foundation poured for some colder temperatures, winter-like temperatures as we go into Friday. You can see all that cold air up there in Canada. That's the Arctic air. It's going to start to seep southward as we go into Friday, into this weekend, both Saturday and Sunday on the 4th and 5th of January. And then once we go into Monday on the system's backside, we're going to see some very cold air, and in the purples here in like Kansas and Missouri, for example. Not that it's going to happen exactly what this model shows, but definitely seeing the potential for temperatures 25, 30 degrees below average here into the heartland of the country. And this is January, folks. This is the coldest month of the season throughout. And when you're seeing temperature anomalies 25, 30 degrees below average, you know it is very cold. So make sure you're subscribed to the channel. We'll keep you updated on how cold temperatures will get as we go deeper into January. That is for sure. Let's look here at the snow depth in inches currently across the United States and southern Canada. You can see the heaviest of the snows across the portions to the north across southern Canada, and also the mountains out west like the Cascades, the Sierras, and the Rockies. Not much snow on the ground across the Midwest, even the upper Midwest, not much snow there either. The Ohio Valley, much of the Mid-Atlantic and the Northeast, traditionally when you see winter in early January, you see snow on the ground. Well, not this time of year right now. But things are going to change for the lower Midwest, the Ohio Valley, and the Mid-Atlantic over the next few days. Looking here at the European model for Friday, here comes that energy, 1002 millibar low over there in Seattle, spreading some snow out across the Pacific Northwest, especially in those higher elevations. Lower elevation rain, and that could bring some flooding at times. And then going into Saturday, notice the little bit of the pink showing up here. Southern Nebraska into Kansas and western Missouri. We have to keep an eye on that freezing drizzle, and this could be light freezing drizzle, and that accretes ice a lot better there. The computer model, the European, is showing that. Looking here on Sunday, a more formidable 1001 millibar low. European model actually shows this moving over the Missouri-Arkansas state line. Prolific ice storm here from southeast Kansas into central Missouri, southern Illinois, southwestern Indiana into Kentucky, and possibly even here some cold air damming in the Cumberland Plateau of eastern and middle Tennessee. That could actually lead to some freezing rain there at times going into Sunday, but especially Sunday night. Severe weather on the southern side. So if you're in the Arklatex, Arkla-Miss region, or Dixie Alley in general, you could be seeing some severe weather there on Sunday. And then the system flattens out. Still seeing some light to moderate snow there across the Mid-Atlantic on Monday, with maybe some stronger storms across the Carolina coast, southeast Georgia, and North Florida on the European model. Let's look at the GFS model here. Similar, 1002 millibar low there, just west to Seattle. Higher elevation snow there on Friday. Lower elevation rain. See all that moisture starting to move across the Rockies here on Saturday. Notice again, it's still in line with those lighter pinks there. That's where we have some lighter freezing rain, freezing drizzle there across Kansas. So definitely if you're in Kansas, I would make sure that you're buying salt as we go into the next 24 hours or 48 hours from now, because it looks like some freezing drizzle, freezing rain is on the way there for Kansas. Going into Sunday, we have that really prolific freezing rain, maybe even sleet here in the orange showing up from Kansas into Missouri, downstate Illinois, downstate Indiana, into Kentucky there, parts of northwest Tennessee. Snowfall on the northern side, and again, this could be a decent snowstorm for parts of the Midwest, the Ohio Valley, and into the Mid-Atlantic as well, and especially as we go into Monday. Still to note, the GFS model is a little bit slower than the European, so the European model kicks this storm off the coast a little bit sooner on Monday. The GFS, the American model, kicks it off a little bit later on Monday. Just some timing differences that we have to nail down over the next couple of days, and we will do so. Let's look at the placement and also the snowfall amounts. The early estimates here in the pinks, we could be seeing that's at least a foot of snow or so. So in the pinks here, 8 to 12 inches, maybe even a little bit more than 12 inches here from Kansas into Missouri, downstate Illinois, that stretches into southern Indiana, into southern Ohio, northern Kentucky, into West Virginia there, Maryland, and Northern Virginia. Looking at the GFS model, very similar, but up the ante on the snowfall totals there across portions of Kansas into Missouri, Illinois, into portions of Indiana, Ohio, northern Kentucky again, into West Virginia, Maryland, over here into Delaware, southern New Jersey, and northern Virginia. Those are the areas in the GFS model. So very similar in like the placement of the snow, but the intensity of the snow a little bit different there on the models. GFS definitely uptrending. Let's look here at the European model for ice. Very prolific ice storm where you're seeing the darker pinks there into Missouri, for example, southern Illinois, into Kentucky, southern Indiana. This could be one of the most prolific ice storms we have seen in quite some time in the United States in general. Some of these models are printing out totals that could be honestly accreting half an inch, even 3/4 of an inch of ice, and that would cause some significant, day-lasting power outages. And it's going to be very dangerous because we got cold air coming in on the backside, and that is cold air that is going to remain in place for a while. So that means a lot of this ice will not be melting, and the GFS model also printing out some pretty high totals, anywhere from a half inch to 3/4 in some of these areas accreting for ice. So definitely seeing a lot of ice out there. So make sure you're buying salt. Make sure you're getting those snow shovels and plows ready out there. If you're in the Midwest, the Ohio Valley, and the Mid-Atlantic, you're definitely going to need them. And again, subscribe to the channel because we're going to keep you updated on that huge winter storm as we go into the weekend over the next couple of days. Let's look at the teleconnections. The AO, the Arctic Oscillation, is negative. That's going to remain negative really through the middle of January, and that's going to keep that Arctic air in place. And looking at the teleconnections for the PNA, the Pacific North American Oscillation, is positive, at least just slightly so. It's going to remain positive all the way through at least, again, the middle of January. So ultimately what this does, positive PNA, you got the ridge off the west coast, and then you also have a ridge in the Pacific Southwest keeping us warmer, and the AO is keeping that trough in the east, and that means we're going to see a lot of colder temperatures. Look at the temperatures next week. These anomalies are pretty profound across the central and east. We're looking at areas that could be 20, 25 degrees below average, and you can see this model is actually picking up on the snow with this system. That snowpack that we lay down in the Midwest, the Ohio Valley, and the Mid-Atlantic will actually be like a refrigerator or a freezer. It'll keep us a lot colder in those areas that see the snow. We're still going to be cold in areas that have bare ground, but even colder with those areas that have the snowfall. That is for sure. And again, Arctic air is drier air, so we're going to see a drier weather pattern across the east and the southeast as we go in towards next week. But that's going to shift the storm track over the Gulf of Mexico, over Florida, and then just offshore the East Coast next week through the 10th time frame. And that is a Miller A type of look, and that could bring potentially a nor'easter. That has happened before. And looking here at the snowfall next week, there are some hints at that. Not too far offshore, there's some heavier snow with the system later next week, and that's something we have to watch. If that shifts, again, 50 to 100 miles further west, and really starts to become more widespread, that could be a mid-Atlantic and northeast and a coastal northeast as well, by the way, along I-95 corridor snowstorm. So that is definitely could be something we have to watch as we go into next week. So subscribe to the channel, check back often for updates, like the video down below by giving it a thumbs up, share this video with friends, family, and on social media. Anybody that you know, I definitely appreciate it. Get the word out there on this huge winter storm because it's going to be causing us some significant problems on the roadways and even for power outages potentially as well with that prolific ice storm. Leave any comments, questions, and concerns below. We'll get to those after the video, and I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of their Thursday out there.